On today's episode of DeRaud Messinger Show, we're talking Wyoming reaction, Dylan. The Texas-Wyoming game. If you're a Longhorns fan, it could be good and it could be bad depending on your view of it. Of course, this reaction is part of our coverage at HornSports.com. Don't forget to like and check out all of our articles over there. Of course, Dylan, as always, it's free. Such a rarity in this time, day and age and all that. But Dylan, Wyoming and Texas, yet again, as I just mentioned, there's some good and there's some bad. Any game balls to give away, positive takeaways?
Well, I also want to just say, Devon, welcome to rooting for a second half team. There's tons of fun involved. You get to watch the team struggle, wonder where did everything go wrong? What is going on? What happened to last game? Why is it not carrying over to this? And then in the second half, well, in this case, the fourth quarter, where everything kind of changes and flips on its head. But I do want to say, just with this Texas team, and that was the biggest thing for me. It's a championship level defense and that's the biggest thing, especially when you're a second half team offensively. This defense is making sure nothing kind of goes off the rails, no matter if you're seeing inconsistent play from the offense, ranging from yours and the receivers, right? It's not just yours, it's a lot of that offense just as a whole being inconsistent. But the most reliable thing has been that defense. They're only allowing 14 points per game, which is 27th in the country, Devin, and 180 yards per game, which is 34th. They're top 40 in a lot of the important categories that you'll see on like College Football Reference. So they're doing really well, and they played one of the hardest schedules in the country with Rice, Alabama, and Wyoming, who all made bowl game last year. So this defense looks great. You even saw a defensive player, Devin, getting a touchdown.
What?
Byron Murphy playing fullback into the
Oh, we
outside.
saw
So
two. We saw that touchdown catch and we saw a pick six.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So they accounted for 14 of the points, right? So this defense has been great. It's going to be the reason that if they do make it to the college football playoff or a Big 12 championship game, they will be a big part of that. So it was great to see them still looking as great as ever in this game. Obviously, they did allow that big run by Harrison Whaley, Devin, or Wiley, which however
I think
you pronounce
Whaley.
it. But Whaley, okay. So that factored into a lot of the rushing yards for Wyoming was just that big play. But after that, they responded, and that big play, sadly, Devin, was Anthony Hill overcommitting to one side and leaving his gap open, and Whaley getting out. So obviously getting still the whole Anthony Hill experience, but after that, Texas really took a hold defensively, at least.
Yeah, the Anthony Hill yet again. They unleashed the dog, and the dog
Yeah,
was a little too aggressive again. I mean,
he went after the squirrel. Yeah,
yeah, he went after the squirrel. I mean, it happened in the Alabama game a couple times. Nothing too majorly happened in terms of letting up something off of that, but containment was an issue, and I saw that a couple times against Wyoming, like non-Anthony Hill related stuff. Like Anthony Hill, of course, yet again, yeah, that was not a great job, but it's a learning moment. I mean, it's at least it happened for Texas early in the game versus later in the game. But Dylan, game ball, Jahdae Barron, the top-rated Longhorn according to Pro Football Focus against Wyoming. He was making plays behind the line of scrimmage like a linebacker or a defensive lineman should. But of
yeah.
course, he's in the secondary, so got to give him his props. Jaron Thompson, yet again, not always the greatest in coverage, but when it pays off, it seems like it pays off big time, dealing with another interception. A pick six at it, and yeah, yet again, defensive touchdowns, Dylan. Byron Murphy, offensive, defensive touchdown, if you will. Kind of rare to see, and then Jonathan Brooks kind of turned back the clock a little bit, looking like Hallettsville. Jonathan Brooks for a period. Did not score a touchdown. I'm sure he's probably kicking himself that he wasn't able to do it, being the guy in this game, but he did rush for 164 yards, and we talked about it in the preview. The running game is going to be really the X factor in this one, and Jonathan Brooks pulled it out. And Xavier Worthy, he gets his flack, Dylan, but 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown was probably the igniter for Texas against Wyoming. Started the scoring spree, if you will, in that fourth quarter. And as he likes to say, what big time players make big time plays. That's what he told me after the game. So it's just continuing on in that way. But Dylan, You wanted the negatives to be called the deflated balls. What's your deflated balls here?
Work in progress. But I would say the biggest thing is just the inconsistency on offense. It feeds into being a second half team, as we've seen. That it just hasn't looked great. Like you'll see Ewers again. He missed a throw to Davian Sanders. I believe that could have been also picked off in the end zone, Devin, but luckily it wasn't. Where he
That was.
jumped, he jumped and threw for like 25
Well, it
yards
looked like you're
inaccurately, right?
throwing like a entry pass in basketball with a little bit of air on it.
Yeah.
But as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh boy, that I thought it was either wide open or it was gonna get picked off."
Yeah.
And of course, neither. Just thankfully for Texas. But inconsistency. Anything else there?
Yeah, I mean, like I was talking about against Alabama going in the second half, they were only up 13-6. Against Rice, 16-3. Wyoming only 10-7. So you're seeing the general trend of Texas not being able to get over about 17 points in the first half, and two of them are against teams where they should have been able to get to, but it felt like they're just missing throws, dropped balls, right, Devin? So I'd really like to see that get better. But again, like you said, the good news is Jonathan Brooks really taking a hold of that backfield, especially with Baxter not getting any carries today. He really showed what he got.
Yeah, Baxter was injured and maybe making an appearance against Baylor, but Brooks definitely made the most of his opportunity. Jadon Blue also got some touches as well. Dylan, yeah, like you're talking about the inconsistencies on offense. How about going from a first half team to now Texas is a second half team? What a year we live in for the Longhorns 2023. Quinn Ewers, yet again, like Dylan was saying earlier, has been inconsistent at times, definitely was against Wyoming, but also, like Dylan said, some of that was on the receivers. They didn't help his cause with a couple of drops. Definitely not a winning solution there for Texas offensively. And then on defense, we talked about it. The contain has not quite been there all the time on defense. And then I put down a death by 1,000 out routes, 5 yard out routes. That's seemingly what was happening to Texas. They couldn't defend it until Jaron Thompson stepped in front of one and made him pay. And from that point on, I think the adjustment was pretty well. But yeah, I mean, offensively for Wyoming, they couldn't really get anything done down the center. They had to rely on the sidelines. But I mean, in terms of concerning things, Dylan, a deflated ball was mentality for me. But it could be, depending on how you view it, it could be not as bad as some would think. Because while the mentality wasn't like they came out the gates firing and just beating the S out of Wyoming, they did show up late when in times of Longhorns past they have rolled over in games like that where this underdog is close to us in the game and they just drop dead. Texas didn't do that. Like I said, Xavier Worthy sparked the change, and they did end up beating the S out of Wyoming. Just it was a late S beating, if you will. But yeah. Anything else, Dylan?
No, I mean, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves in the sense of like they're coming off this great win against Alabama. This is going to be a little tough. I mean, and they also beat Alabama so bad, Devin, that they Milrow got benched, and
Poor
Alabama's
Milrow.
talking about
Didn't look any
they don't know
better.
who to start. Yeah, so um, this Texas team, it looks good, but again, like when it comes to being a new contending team, they haven't experienced this before. So like every game in my eyes, I'll take it, right? Like it doesn't have to be pretty. I think Texas is going to be one of the better teams when it gets a little mucky that they're able to pull through because they're going to be used to having to play through their offense not generating the points that you'd like to see, especially early on, and their defense having to hold it all together. And in this case, Jaron Thompson sparking it too on the defense to get some points for Texas, right? So I like what I see in that regard. Texas is finding ways to win games no matter what, and that's going to play as you get further along into the season. So there is that positive mind, positive outlook to take, Devin, and I'm choosing to go that route. But there's also the yes, it is. When is it? When is Ewers just going to start handing the ball to the other team, or is he not going to do that? And this is kind of the inconsistency that we're seeing because what you do get nervous about is when are those passes that get deflected off the hands of receivers going to fall into the defender's hands and things go
Yeah,
awry.
it's
So
only a matter of time. But
definitely tough.
no, I
Yeah.
agree. It's like last year's TCU team, I believe, was a team that learned how to win games no matter the way of winning games last year, and it did end up pretty well for them. Of course, if you're a Horned Frog, maybe not the ultimate happy ending that you wanted, but for Texas, definitely a good thing that they're learning how to deal with some of those tough wins now. But of course, it will be concerning if it continues on for much longer, Dylan. Even though the play is about to get a little more competitive with the Big 12 goodbye final victory lap tour, definitely going to be some horns down in Waco this next weekend.
Mm.
But more importantly than our reaction, how did you guys feel about the Wyoming game? Let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, check us out at hornsports.com. Have a great rest of your day.